English literature is often divided into different eras or periods, based on the predominant literary styles, themes, and cultural influences of the particular time. In this video, we are going to look at these literary periods. But you may ask, why do I care? 3 reasons real quick. 1, our culture is a product of each of these periods, and elements are still with us today. 2, if you are a native English speaker, the threads that run through these periods have shaped how you think. And 3, you will have a better understanding of almost any book or movie that you read or watch for the rest of your life. I just want to say that every literary work that I mention in this video is worth adding to your reading list. So a couple of things about literary periods. Scholars don't always agree with the exact categorization, or the names, or the dates of these periods. And one period does not suddenly end one day and the next begins the next morning. These shifts are gradual and there's overlap. But taking these into account, here are the generally recognized eras in English literature that are helpful for us to understand the history of ideas in the English-speaking world. We start with the Old English period. The Old English or Anglo-Saxon era is the earliest phase of English literature. This period runs roughly from the 7th century to the decades following the Norman invasion in 1066. In the first part of this period, oral tradition was the primary mode of literary expression. The stories were in poetic form. It made it easier for the storyteller to remember these long narratives. In later days, written texts became more common. These were often transcribed by monks in monasteries. The stylistic markers of Anglo-Saxon literature are the use of alliteration, caesuras, and a strong rhythmic structure known as accentuated verse. In Old English literature, you can see the influence of the heroic code of the Germanic tribes and Norse mythology. These emphasized values such as bravery, honor, and loyalty to one's lord and kin. So you'll frequently find themes like heroism, fate, or weird, loyalty, and the battle between good and evil. Intertwined with these mighty warrior ideals, we see also Christian elements, because Christianity was spreading into England at that time. Major works from this era include Beowulf. This epic poem stands as the most significant and celebrated work of Old English literature. It's so awesome, you just have to read it. Other important texts include the elegiac poems The Wanderer and The Seafarer, which explore themes of exile, loss, and the transient nature of life. To call them elegiac means that they are sad because they recall something from the past that has been lost. The Old English era laid the foundation for English literature, with its distinctive poetic style, rich thematic content, and the blending of cultural influences. These things carried forward into the literature of medieval England. In 1066, William the Conqueror and his Norman-French armies invaded and conquered the Anglo-Saxons at the Battle of Hastings. The significance of this event cannot be overstated. Themes in medieval literature frequently revolve around religion, chivalry, courtly love, and the human struggle with good and evil. Religious texts explored complex spiritual journeys and moral questions, while chivalrous romances such as the Arthurian legends celebrated heroic deeds, honor, and courtly behavior. The influence of Christianity permeates the literature of this period, with many works aimed at teaching moral lessons or exploring theological ideas. Additionally, the feudal system and the code of chivalry shaped the themes and characters of many narratives and reflect the social and political structures of the time. Major works from this period include Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. This is a vivid collection of stories that provide a snapshot of medieval society. Also, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It's a chivalric romance that explores the themes of honor, bravery, and temptation. Both these are really good. These works show the emergence of literature written in English. Before these, everything of significance that was written in England was written in either Latin or Old French. So these texts reflect a significant moment in the development of a truly English literature. Overall, the medieval period was a time of great literary diversity and creativity, marked by the interplay of religious and secular themes. The Renaissance and Reformation era, when viewed through the lens of English literature, can be divided into the Elizabethan, the Jacobian, and the Caroline periods. Each sub-period has distinctive characteristics. The Elizabethan period, named after Queen Elizabeth, is often considered the golden age of English literature. It was marked by the flowering of poetry, drama, and prose. Cultural influences in this period include Renaissance humanism, Protestant Reformation, and England's growing national pride. Predominant literary styles include the use of blank verse, elaborate metaphor, and a rich patterned language. The writing was as ornate as Elizabethan clothing and gardens. I think that's cool. They loved elaborate patterns even in their poetry. Think of the sonnet form. Anyway, themes frequently explored love, beauty, politics, and the human condition. Major works and writers from the Elizabethan period include William Shakespeare, plays like Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, and A Midsummer Night's Dream. Other notable figures include Christopher Marlowe, known for Dr. Faustus, and Edmund Spenser, the author of The Faerie Queene. The Jacobian period under King James I was a little darker and more complicated when compared to the Elizabethan stuff. One of the main literary styles was the sophisticated metaphysical poetry. It had these intricate metaphors and a more intellectual approach. Themes at this time often revolved around corruption, moral ambiguity, and the darker aspects of human nature. Cultural influences of the Jacobian period include the continued impact of the Reformation, the rise of scientific inquiry, and political uncertainty. You can see this in Shakespeare's later works like Macbeth and The Tempest, which delve into more profound psychological and philosophical questions. Other writers of note are Ben Jonson and John Donne. He's the main metaphysical poet. Start with his Holy Sonnets. They explore themes of love, death, and faith. The Caroline period, named after Charles I, was characterized by literary styles that reflected the turbulence of the times. Cultural influences during this period were heavily marked by the English Civil War and the political and religious strife between royalists and parliamentarians. Predominant literary styles include courtly and cavalier poetry, which celebrated loyalty, honor, and carpe diem themes, as well as an increased focus on religious and metaphysical subjects. Major works and writers from the Caroline period include John Milton, whose Paradise Lost is an epic exploration of the fall of man, and the Cavalier poets including Robert Herrick, Richard Lovelace, and John Suckling. This literary period represents a rich and evolving tapestry of English literature. There were profound shifts in style and themes and cultural influences, and so it produced some of the most enduring works in the Western literary canon. The next era goes by a lot of names. It goes from 1660, when the English monarchy was restored under Charles II, after the political turmoil following Oliver Cromwell's death, and it runs pretty much to the end of the 18th century. Okay, the names. It's called the Age of Reason, the Neoclassical Era, and the Restoration and 18th century. Politically, this period was kicked off by the restoration of the monarchy, but intellectually its source is in the Enlightenment. That's when basically human reason became the measure of all things. That's why it's also called the Neoclassical period, because the Greeks and the Romans valued reason as well. What you need to remember is that this literary era is marked by the emergence of reason, scientific inquiry, and the return to classical ideals. At this time, literature was often regarded as a powerful tool for the advancement of knowledge. Writers looked carefully at the world around them. This is key. Their focus was directed outward, toward the world, toward society, toward humanity. This intellectual climate gave rise to the Age of Satire, a time when satire became the most predominant literary device. Satire is when you mock something with the intent of it being fixed. So, some authors of note. Alexander Pope combines his sharp wit with social commentary in The Rape of the Lock and The Dunciad. And of course you must read Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels and A Modest Proposal. More wonderful satire. So this was a time of intellectual and literary flourishing. The era was marked by a dedication to reason, clarity, order, and a critical approach to traditional structures. Now, does all this order and clarity and reason sound a little soulless to you? Well, it did to some people back in the day. The Romantic era was an imaginative response against the rationalistic ideas of the Enlightenment. The Romantic period began in the late 18th century and carried on into the mid-19th century, and it represents a significant shift in literary history. When you think of the Romantic era, think emotion, individualism, and nature. In the Age of Reason, the writers looked outward. In the Romantic era, they looked inward. The Romantic period didn't just show up in full bloom. Pre-Romantics were a bit of a transition between the Enlightenment and the Romantic era. Thomas Gray, William Blake, and Robbie Burns were some of the key figures. They still addressed broader social issues like the Enlightenment writers, but they did so in a more subjective way, more emotion and personal reflection. When it comes to literary style, the Romantic period generally valued expressive language, spontaneity, and imagination. This was a departure from the strict forms and rationalism of the preceding Neoclassical period. The themes that were frequently explored during this time included the sublime beauty of nature, the depths of human emotion and imagination, the celebration of the individual, and the fascination with the past. The Neoclassical writers liked the past too, but it looked back to the ancient Greeks and Romans for inspiration. The Romantics drew inspiration from the medieval past and folk traditions. That's a big difference. Cultural influences on the Romantic period were diverse and profound. The Industrial Revolution. Romantic poets reacted against the mechanization and urbanization of life. Romantic writers idealized rural life and the natural world. The French Revolution was also a huge influence. It had all those inspiring ideas of liberty, equality, and the potential for societal transformation. The Romantics loved these things. Contemporary philosophy was also an influence. Rousseau emphasized the natural goodness of humanity and the corrupting influence of society. You can see how this would have appealed to the Romantic writers' love for nature and spontaneity. So, the authors of the Romantic era, you need to remember 5. 2 from the first generation Romantics, and 3 from the second generation. First generation, William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Wordsworth's poems like Tintern Abbey and Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner exemplified romantic themes of nature and the supernatural. The second generation, Percy Bysshe Shelley, John Keats, and Lord Byron. Shelley's Ode to the West Wind and Prometheus Unbound reflect his revolutionary spirit and lyrical beauty. Keats, in poems like Ode to the Nightingale and To Autumn, expressed a deep sensitivity to beauty and transience. Byron's Don Juan and Childe Harold's Pilgrimage highlighted the romantic hero, characterized by introspection and defiance. Gothic fiction is a child of the Romantic era. All that disillusionment with mechanization, urbanization, and alienation led to darker explorations. Gothic fiction often mixes supernatural and mysterious elements with old castles and dungeons and misty moors. Gothic novels stir up intense emotions like terror, anguish, fear, and even love. While Coleridge and Byron made their mark in this genre, John William Polidori's The Vampire and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein are standout classics. Although I didn't like the Romantic era very much at first, once I got to know it, I came to love it. All that intense emotion and nature and focus on the individual. These folks wrote some of the most enduring and influential works in Western literature. But then things changed again. The Victorian era runs from 1837 to 1901. This was during the reign of Queen Victoria. The main literary style during this period was realism. It tried to depict everyday life and society with accuracy and detail. Later in the period, naturalism became a thing because of Darwin's book. This ushered in a more deterministic view of human life. The Victorian novel was the dominant literary form. These novels were often serialized in magazines, which allowed for detailed character development and intricate plots. Themes in Victorian literature were a result of all kinds of turmoil and change in English society. Here are some of the main themes: industrialization, urbanization, and class disparity, a strong focus on morality, social reform, and the struggles of the individual, conflict between science and religion, gender roles and the plight of women, love, family, and duty. So where is all this turmoil and change coming from? Well, the Industrial Revolution brought about significant socioeconomic changes. The British Empire was expanding, and this introduced new ideas and settings to the people of England, but it also prompted reflection on colonialism and cultural identity. There's also the rise of the middle class and changes in education, and the rise in literacy rates, which made literature more accessible to a broader audience. And then there's Charles Darwin, who published his book, The Origin of the Species. That forced people to reconsider what it means to be human. This is big stuff. The major works and writers of the Victorian era are Charles Dickens, whose novels such as Great Expectations, Bleak House, and The Tale of Two Cities vividly portray the social issues and injustices of his time. The Brontë sisters, especially Charlotte with Jane Eyre and Emily with Wuthering Heights, explored themes of passion, social class, and the position of women. George Eliot, the pen name for Mary Ann Evans, in works like Middlemarch, examined the intricate web of human relationships and social dynamics. Thomas Hardy's novels such as Tess of the D'Urberville and Jude the Obscure often depicted the harsh realities of rural life and the constraints of society. And then there was the poetry. Alfred Lord Tennyson, whose works like In Memoriam reflected on personal loss and the quest for faith. Robert Browning is known for his dramatic monologues. My favorite is My Last Duchess. These offer deep psychological insights. Elizabeth Barrett Browning wrote sonnets from the Portuguese, and Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach highlighted personal emotion and the question of faith and society. The Victorian era is characterized by its rich exploration of social issues and moral questions in the human condition. People who read Victorian literature admire it for its depth, realism, and complexity. I recommend you add these to your reading list. Now let's move on to the modern period. The modernist literary period goes roughly from the late 19th century to the mid-20th century. It represents a radical break from traditional forms and themes of previous literature. This is because of all the huge social and political and cultural upheavals of the time. You know, 2 world wars and a global pandemic and a Great Depression, just to name a few. These exposed the inadequacy of reason to create a better world, as it had promised to do. Also, the ideas of thinkers like Freud, Marx, Nietzsche, and Darwin destabilized our understanding of ourselves and society and the world. We no longer lived in a rational, ordered universe. So all this resulted in new literary styles, including stream of consciousness, fragmented narrative structures, and an emphasis on symbolism and myth. Modernist writers often experimented with language and form to capture the complexities of the human psyche and the chaotic nature of contemporary life. Themes in modernist literature revolved around alienation, dislocation, and the breakdown of social and cultural norms. There was a strong focus on the inner workings of the mind, influenced by the burgeoning fields of psychology and psychoanalysis, the fragmentation of experience and reality, the search for meaning in a seemingly indifferent or hostile world, and the critique of traditional values and institutions. These themes were all central to modernist works. Modernist literature also explored the impacts of industrialization, war, and technological advancement on human life and society. Some major works and writers of this period include Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which explores the darkness of human nature and colonialism. T.S. Eliot's earlier poems, like The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, it delves into the fragmented psyche of the modern individual. Give reading James Joyce's Ulysses a try. This book revolutionized narrative techniques and language. Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway and To the Lighthouse employed stream of consciousness to explore inner lives and social dynamics. T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland epitomized the fragmented, elusive style which captured the disillusionment of the post-war generation. Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, this is a great example of modern drama, with all those absurdist and existential elements in it. And William Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury. This book uses fragmented narrative to depict the decline of a Southern family. The modernist period is marked by its break with traditional forms, and its exploration of the depths of human consciousness, and its reflection on the profound social and cultural changes of the early 20th century. It brought about monstrous change, but the next period changes things up even more. What comes right after a modern period? Why, the postmodern one, of course. Postmodern literature emerges in the mid-20th century and continues into the 21st. It represents an enhancement and a departure from the conventions of modernism. It's characterized by an embrace of fragmentation, paradox, and a playful, often skeptical approach to narrative and meaning. Literary styles in postmodernism include metafiction, pastiche, and intertextuality. It often blends high and low cultural references, and it frequently breaks the fourth wall to highlight the constructed nature of narratives. Themes in postmodern literature revolve around the instability of meaning, the unreliability of language, and the deconstruction of grand narratives and ideologies. There's a focus on the subjective nature of reality, the blending of fiction and reality, and the questioning of truth and representation. Postmodern works often exhibit a self-reflexive irony and a tendency to play with narrative structure and form. And all this reflects a deep skepticism towards absolute truths and traditional values. That's key. Influences? Well, philosophy, particularly the rise of post-structuralism and deconstruction as articulated by thinkers like Jacques Derrida, Michel Foucault, and Jean Baudrillard. These guys deeply influenced postmodern writers. The major works and writers of the postmodern period include Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita, which employs unreliable narration and playful language. There's Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, which blends historical fiction with science fiction to explore the absurdities of war and time. How about Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow? This one is wild. It defies conventional storytelling. More recently, we have David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest. I love this book. It delves into addiction and entertainment culture through a fragmented encyclopedic narrative. Overall, the postmodernist period is marked by its playful and skeptical approach to narrative and meaning. Its emphasis is on the constructed nature of reality and language. This era has produced some of the most innovative and challenging works in literary history. It continues to push the boundaries of what literature can be. So what's next? Well, we'll have to wait and see. So there you have it, a general overview of the literary eras in English literature and a recommended reading list. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.